Okay. Well, that being said here, guys, I have a few different points that I want to kind of drive home and pour into with y'all. The main focus and intention is to help you guys level up your presentation and help you guys set up to make more money. Does that sound like a plan? Is that fair?
That's
That's
Yes.
fair.
Yes,
Yes.
Here we
please.
go. So my main focus of the workshop tonight is I want to give you guys some sauce regarding closing veterans, and all of it's really applicable to every situation. What I'd encourage you all to do is grab a pen and a piece of paper. We're going to go through some notes together and see if we can help you guys level up. That being said, the first thing I want to kind of touch on are what I learned from Mark Duchai, the three things that level up a presentation. So I'm going to kind of open this up for a lot of back and forth, guys, and I want to pick your brains while you pick mine. But who can tell me maybe some of the things that you feel like would level up a presentation and like make it where you're more likely to close in a situation?
Definitely your attitude.
Our attitude, that's a big one, right? If you work
Yeah.
with me, you know that I like to stress with my organization, there's a lot in life that we don't have any control over, but there's two things that we do have control over, our attitude and our effort. That's a great answer. It's not the one I'm looking for, but that's a good one, Angela.
I
What
got the right answer.
what else would help level up a presentation, Emily?
Consistency.
Consistency. Another thing, not necessarily what I'm looking for, but again, if you've seen my presentations, if you've seen one of my presentations, you've seen 100, or if you've seen 100, you've seen one. I don't know the way to word it. That was something I picked up from some of the field trainers when I started in the business, is that in terms of like a training perspective, when I'm trying to learn from somebody, I want them to do the same thing every single time so that I can replicate it. And the same thing on the producer side, you want to be consistent. You want to have a set process where you're doing the same things every single time, because that's going to lead to consistent results. Consistent effort, consistent activity leads to consistent results. Another really good point, Emily, but not quite what I'm looking for. Miss
You're
Laura,
looking for following the script. Oop.
no, not quite. This is over and above the simple stuff of following the script. Miss Laura, what do you think would help level up a presentation?
Credibility.
That's one of them right there. Professionalism and credibility. Those are huge things that can help level up your presentation, going from average to great or from good to great. So that's one of them, is professionalism and credibility. I'm looking for two more. Jackson,
Confidence.
confidence is a big one. Not quite what I was looking for, but that's also a very, very good one. Jackson?
Building rapport and building value behind what you're selling, or
Okay,
like
close,
in
close.
whatever.
So the three things that level up a presentation are professionalism and credibility, emotion, and tie downs. So I'd recommend you guys write those three things down. This will help level up your presentation. Professionalism and credibility, emotion, and effective use of tie downs. Okay. So those are some of the things that I want to talk about today. And as we get into kind of closing in general. Um, what I would say here is another thing I've learned in this business. Everything we do starts on the phones. That ALP that we drop on the board, it really does start on the phone and how that phone call is handled. What we say and how we say it will dictate how someone responds. Understand that communication is 10% what we say, it's 90% how we say it. So everything really does start on the phones here. The language that we use and again, how we communicate it is going to dictate how they respond to it. It's going to set up the selling situation. On the call, your main focuses are building credibility, which remember how I said that helps level up a presentation? That starts on the phones. So credibility and building urgency are two things that you can do on the phone that again are going to help you in the long run with your close. So keep that in mind. Once we get into the actual sit, again, it's very important that we utilize that intro to help set up the close and to set up what we would call an optimal selling situation. We want to get control very early on in the sit. That's also something that helps level up a presentation. If you want to say tie down slash control, those are two very important things. But control starts early in the call, starts on the phone call, and it starts in the introduction, where if we notice as we're going through the sit or getting the introduction that they're driving, that they're not able to pay attention, that some of you might have run a sit where you see like the husband standing there and the wife sitting down or vice versa, getting control of that situation right off rip is going to help elevate your close, where again, you want to get them into a good situation where they're sitting down, they're paying attention. If they have the TV on in the background, you see them looking over to the side a lot or whatever. Hey, Laura, go ahead and turn off the TV real quick. That way we can get this stuff taken care of in a quick and effective manner. Get control early and keep control often throughout your sit. That's something that's very important in setting up your sale. Does that make sense so far, guys? Tie downs. I'm making sure you guys are paying attention to me by using tie downs. All right. Anyway, right in the intro, another thing that's really important here, guys, using the script is what I call making it make sense to the situation. Using those 3 reasons for us meeting in the beginning is something that, again, can help set you into a good selling situation where you're setting the member at ease early, making sure that they understand who you are, what you're trying to do, and who you represent essentially. So, as I go through those first 3 reasons of meeting, I just really try to make it make sense to them that, Christina, the veteran service organizations here have set these meetings up for really 3 reasons. Number 1, they want to make sure that you and the family know what to do, where to go, and who to call when something happens. They know VA is not going to knock on your door and let you guys know that you're owed something. So what they've done is set up a benefit book that quickly outlines all of your benefits and important contact information. I'm going to make sure that we get that issued out today, right? Right off rip, I'm making sure that they know that I'm on their side, that I'm an advocate and not an adversary. To take it a step further with that second reason, mentioning that there's the will in place that we are going to go over. But third and most important is Shaker today. They're going to have me go over the permanent benefits made available to you through the VSO. I'm not sure if you'll qualify for everything, but my job just to show you your benefits and answer any questions that you have. Does that sound fair? Boom, a tie down. I'm getting them to agree with me early on that they understand I'm an advocate. I'm there for a reason, and I'm not just there to scam them. I'm there for a reason, and I have a lot of credibility behind me. That makes sense, right, guys? Right off rip, again, using everything you can to build professionalism and credibility and kind of breaking down their wall so that they understand, we're not trying to hurt them or harm them. We're there to help them. Those are things that you can accomplish in your phone call, in your introduction, to build credibility and control that'll carry on throughout the close, okay? So again, main things that you're looking for in your introduction and in your phone call, any way that you can build professionalism and credibility, and then any way you can kind of build control through effective use of tie downs, those are all going to be to your benefit, okay? Now, a big part of closing, if you guys have seen me close, is I don't get a lot of objections typically at the end of the sit. The reason why I don't get a lot of objections is, again, I use effective presentation tactics throughout to make it make sense throughout and kind of ease a lot of their concerns and whatnot. So one of the next topics I want to talk about here, guys, is the effective use of tie downs and how we can kind of utilize that to our benefit. So I'm going to share my screen here. We're going to go through a couple of different things. Let's pull up. Did I open it up on this one maybe? I think I did. Yeah. So utilizing the presentation tool of HP Pro is, again, a great resource for building credibility. One thing I do want to touch on with you guys in a way that you can build more professionalism and credibility is as you're on your phone call, if you find out that they're part of a VSO, maybe you don't have it as a lead, so you're not sure their actual group, but you guys can utilize HP Pro here where it says group name, and you can type in like Montana. And when I type in Montana, it's going to show me all of the different organizations that we work with in Montana. But let's say if I do like VFW of, it's probably like VFW of MT right there. So as I type in VFW of, it's going to show me all of the different VFWs that we work with. So if you might not have it as a lead, where it might be an online generated PA vet or whatever, but you know that they're in New Mexico, you can use this New Mexico VFW letter to build a lot of credibility is the point. So utilize HP Pro here on the group name. You can type in like American Legion, and it does the same thing. It's going to show you a bunch of different like American Legion posts that we work with, where you can utilize this letter to, again, build credibility with the client. Okay. That being said here, in HP Pro itself, again, the professionalism and credibility really start off rip, or whether you're presenting to a veteran that's in a VSO or not, utilizing this letter can be very effective. This is the normal PA vet letter. It's something that, again, we're stressing that they already got this. This is something that was set up for them that they requested, all in our benefit, okay? Getting into the tie downs, that really starts here in the family information guide. Um, one of the rebuttals that I really, really hated getting early on was I didn't know we were talking about life insurance. I thought this was just a free will. So I've developed in my presentation and the presentation script that you guys have a lot of different tactics that can help you avoid that. One of them is, again, the effective use of tie downs. So as I introduce this, I always like to stress that, hey, this is designed to help simplify the steps you and your family take when it comes to working with the VA, broken down into a few important parts, including a will, an information guide, and a summary of your VA benefits. I always like to zoom in as well. Now, Christina, here on the right-hand side, you're going to see some key resources and contacts. Some stuff's in red, some stuff's in blue. The stuff in blue, everything from like home loans to home care. So whether you need help setting up some home health or you need help getting a VA home loan, you're going to find all the information here to get that taken care of. Now, Christina, you also notice some of these websites and numbers are highlighted in red. Those are important for your family because they have to do with your veteran life insurance and burial benefits. Okay. So again, all of that is a tool to build credibility, right? Now, the main tie down I want to stress with you guys is something that I've learned from, again, one of my colleagues here, Shayla Harris. I loved in her presentation, she was always really clear and that as she went through this, that we were going to be talking about survivor benefits. So this is a really, really, really great tie down for you guys to utilize that's in the script. And again, just kind of set the stage where you're eliminating that rebuttal of, I didn't know we're talking about life insurance. It's also an effective way for you to start to build emotion where when I say, now, Christina, I know it's not quite table talk today. We are going to be going over survivor benefits, essentially what's left behind for your family when you're gone. They know having this conversation can be difficult. They also know, however, that having the conversation now can save the burden from falling on your family. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Boom, they just gave me permission to talk about life insurance. And not only that, we're going to talk about it and get it taken care of today because it's important. And I got them to say it, right? So that's one of the first tie downs that I really like to effectively lean on because it helps me build professionalism, credibility, control, and emotion all at one time. Okay. I'm going to kind of pause just real quick before I kind of keep word vomiting at you guys, but does that make sense so far how we're able to kind of utilize the phone call, the intro, and then getting into the resources here to build professionalism and credibility?
Yes.
Do you guys agree that that can help
Yes.
level up your presentation?
Oh, absolutely.
Exactly. Okay. So we're going to keep rocking and rolling here. Again, as I go through the information guide, I don't want to take too much time with that here today, but all of this is important. The first main tie down I do is, again, before we get into the information guide, I solidify to them that, hey, we're going to be talking about survivor benefits and we're going to be talking about it today because it's important. As I go through the book, I'm just going to go through the book. But as I do get tier 2 insurance policies, this is another really effective time for me to avoid that rebuttal at the end that I didn't know we're talking about life insurance. Where when I go through the insurance policies, you know, Christina, this section, this is where you can list like any life insurance or group medical coverages that you carry. Be sure to be detailed, list the coverage amount, the policy number, but also the company your benefits through. The kids can't just Google search your name and see where you have your life insurance. Now, Christina, when you did separate from service, did you end up converting any of your SGLI to a VGLI benefit? Whether they say yes, no, I don't know, I don't care. It puts me in an authority situation because, again, veterans are very much an insider market. They're going to know if you know your stuff or not based off of how you say different things, whether it's the DD 214 or in this case, knowing what SGLI is versus VGLI. Most of the time, they're not going to know about it. Good. If they don't know about it, guess who does know about it? Me. I'm the authority here throughout all of this. So again, whether they say yes or no, I don't care. But more importantly, as I continue to go through this, I'm going to utilize the script saying, now, Christina, they noticed a lot of civilian and even VA benefits were temporary, just meaning they can periodically change or even expire. Other times there's stipulations put on benefits where you have to pass away a certain way for it to come back to the family. If that's the case, Christina, be sure to list your benefit here in pencil so that the family knows it's something that's temporary. Now, Christina, if you do qualify for the VSO benefit I'm going to go over today called your freedom of choice, that's something that they set up to be permanent, so it never expires. You can list that here in pen because it's something that'll always be there for your family when they need it. Does that make sense so far, Christina? Boom, guess what? I just built again a huge tie down where I'm setting it up where they gave me permission again to talk about life insurance. Okay. So again, not only that, but I also solidified that, hey, they know you have life insurance. That's great. That stuff that you have, that's for after you die. The stuff I'm going to go over here with you in a little bit, that's for when you die. Just again, kind of differentiating it a little bit, right? But it's something that really helps build that professionalism, because notice how many times I said they, right? It's not I set it up, they set it up for you, and they are going to have me cover that with you before we wrap up. Okay. Does that make sense so far, guys?
Yeah.
And that's another big tool to utilize here with your tie downs to keep control and help level up your presentation. Not the last tie down, but another important one here is, as I go over funeral instructions, again, I hated getting the rebuttal of, I didn't know we're talking about life insurance. So I'm going to plant seeds of success throughout my sit to set it up where I can cultivate that crop at the end of the sit. Where as I show them the freedom of choice, I like to highlight, now, Christina, this is something that you'll likely see at your local post hanging up there on the poster board. This is called your freedom of choice. It's what they set up for you to cover any out-of-pocket costs that might fall back on the family. So you said earlier you'd prefer cremation. This is set up to not only take care of your cremation, but over and above any other miscellaneous things that might fall on the family, whether it's medical debt, the mortgage, or a car, or a student loan. They want to give your family an opportunity to have a legacy instead of a liability left behind, or a blessing instead of a burden. They're going to have me cover that with you before we wrap up. Everything making sense so far, Angela?
Yes.
Boom, you just gave me permission for like the third or fourth time that we're going to be talking about life insurance today. So what do you think they're not going to tell me at the end of the call?
No.
They're probably not going to say no because I built it up so much, but they're also not going to tell me, I didn't know we're talking about life insurance, because I planted so many seeds of success early and often that I'm going to be able to cultivate it later. Okay, guys? So again, the main things I want you guys to understand here is utilize the presentation tool to boost your presentation, to help level it up. Anywhere that you can find ways to build professionalism and credibility, build emotion, or utilize tie downs to effectively build control, all those things are very important to help level up your presentation. Okay. I'm going to kind of pause just real quick and open it up maybe for a question or two before I continue on with a few more of the tie downs and then going through some actual closing tactics. Any questions about what we've talked about so far, guys? Everything jiving? Okay. All right. Well, then, to keep it moving and grooving here, the will is pretty straightforward, to be honest, but I do love at the end of the will just to kind of plant another seed of success, where as I go over the will at the end, I'm going to stress, hey, they made it really easy for you, Joellen. All you need to do is follow these steps. Pretty nice how easy they made that for all the veterans, right?
Yeah.
Now, Joellen, if you have any issues as you're setting this up, my contact information is going to be in the email. So don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I can help assist you with anything at that time, okay?
Okay.
Perfect. What do you guys think that does?
Gives them reassurance that you're there even afterwards.
Boom! I'm not a scammer, right? I'm not someone just
Yeah.
run away, get their info and whatever, right? All of those are big things that, again, can help level up your presentation because you're boosting your professionalism and your credibility. So that tie down isn't in the script, but I would recommend it. Is, again, after you say, hey, pretty nice how easy they made that for you, right? Well, hey, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm going to be there to help support you. That's really important. And it's something that, again, can kind of help level up your presentation. Now, after that, there's not too much when it comes to the 3 important facts. I do like to use my line that, hey, the VA benefits are pretty clear, but they're also pretty clearly lacking. That's exactly why your VFW or the local VSOs have helped set up some benefits for you. And then I'll go through the letter. Now, I do kind of want to touch on this letter a little bit because, again, this is another really effective way to help close the veteran before you even show them numbers, where this is a great way to boost professionalism and credibility. Notice how many times I say they as I go through this. Now, again, Angela, The VA benefits are pretty clear, but they're also pretty clearly lacking. That's exactly why the local VSO there in Michigan has decided to set up some permanent benefits for you. Now, the programs I'm going to be providing and going over with you here today, Angela, they're made possible through the voluntary cooperation of veteran organizations and American Income. Now, these are supplemental, just meaning they're not in competition with anything that you have in place, whether it's through the VA, your employer, or anywhere else. Oftentimes, Angela, they know veterans have benefits set up already. They've seen, however, that a lot of civilian and even VA benefits are temporary, just meaning they can periodically change or expire. Other situations, Angela, they've seen where there's stipulations put on a benefit where you almost have to pass away a certain way for it to pay out, or if you pass away a certain way, it won't pay out. The service organizations set these benefits up not only to be permanent, meaning they never expire, but most importantly, they've set them up to be guaranteed. They pay out no matter how you pass away. The final piece of the puzzle here, Angela, is the VSO has set these up to pay out as soon as 24 to 48 hours after receiving that death certificate. So a lot of veterans like to say their life insurance is for after they die. Their freedom of choice benefit here, Angela, is meant to be for when you die. Now, it is something that you have to qualify for. If you do, the benefits under your independent use and control. It can never be taken away from you. There are several benefits that they have set up for you. They just ask that you take a few minutes to listen to the representative visiting. And if any of these benefits do meet an area of need, they recommend that you do take advantage of them here today during your servicing period. So pausing it just real quick, you see how I'm able to like get them excited about the life insurance almost? We're like, dang, that's really cool stuff. I want to find out more about it, right? All of those things, again, can help level up your close, where I'm planting all of these seeds of success early and often that I'm going to cultivate at the end of the call, okay? And then just to take it a step further, this is already in the script, but basically what that's saying, Angela, is my job's simple. I'm going to go over your benefits, answer any questions that you have, and if you qualify, I'm going to help you get enrolled into these today. Now, Angela, the reason why they suggest that you take advantage of your benefits today is we never know what tomorrow is going to bring. With over 1,500 veterans passing away daily, that's about 50,000 veterans every single month that are waiting on these benefits. They just ask at the end of the call, you let me know with a simple yes or no if you did want to move forward with your program. That's just out of courtesy for all the veterans patiently waiting on their benefits. Is that fair? Boom. That builds so much professionalism, credibility, control, and also emotion, right?
Like that.
Yeah, you're so genuine.
Yeah, exactly, right? I
Yeah.
try to be, sorry, I muted you too, but anyway, I try to be extremely genuine, because that's really important. Exactly. This is actually that's a great thing that you brought up, because early on when I was working with veterans, I realized really early on, veterans aren't going to give two you-know-whats about who you are and what you have to say until they know that you care about what they've gone through, what they need to say. Like, it's so very true. So being genuine is an extremely good takeaway. Thank you. So again, utilizing the letter to effectively close early is really, really important. I'm going to kind of open it up here a little bit because I know I threw a little bit more jazz into this walkthrough of the letter than is in the script. So same thing, I'm going to open it up for questions. Anybody have any questions about kind of how to effectively utilize this letter? Okay, all right. Guys, the nice thing about it is whether they're in a VSO or not, that's fine. Typically, they're going to be a PA vet when you sit down with them, and you'll use this letter for your introduction. But as you get to B1 in your script, you're going to want to switch it to a VFW code like SGMJZ. This is going to build a lot more credibility because, again, this is a letter from a service organization. Whether they're in one or not, once you get to page 2, it doesn't say a specific VSO. It's just generic. So I would definitely recommend utilizing this to help, again, level up your presentation and make it where you're closing at a higher level. Okay. From here, there's another couple tie downs I want to go through before we kind of go over maybe plan building and or closing. One of the big ones being is as I go through my needs analysis, after I finish these questions, before I resume my screen share, I'm going to be very intentional And I'm gonna say, now, Angela, the VSO has set these benefits up for you, and they have us sit down with you on an individual basis because they realize every veteran's in an individual situation. What's right for you, Angela, probably won't be the same thing that's right for an 85-year-old single widow or the 49-year-old with 3 kids or the 19-year-old just getting enlisted. They know every veteran and service member and family are all in different situations. That's why they have us sit down with you on an individual basis so we can customize your benefits to fit your individual needs. Does that make sense, Angela? Boom. Same thing. I'm building a lot of professionalism and credibility here. I'm keeping control with my tie downs. I'm making it make sense, but I'm also, again, setting myself up for success in the long haul. That's when I'm going to go through the needs analysis. I'm just going to like quickly just kind of go through this just to have something. Would you guys say that you have more questions regarding plan building or regarding closing?
Closing.
Plan building. Oh,
Plan building
There's a
and
little- there's-
closing.
Closing.
There's no
Plan
wrong,
building.
there's no wrong answer. There's no right answer. Again, it's
Yeah,
just
kind of both.
I'm gonna go over both of them with you guys, and I'll kind of we'll open it up for questions if people need more. All right. So when it comes to the needs analysis, this is something that I think Alessandro is gonna do a workshop on with anyone that wants to. I think he's doing it tomorrow. So I'm not gonna touch on the needs analysis too much. Just gonna fill it out. Okay. So as I finish up the needs analysis, that's all that. Okay. So getting into plan building, what I found in this business being here 4 years is that this business can be really, really, really difficult. It can be really, really hard when you remotely make it difficult, complicated, or hard. But this business is also really, really, really easy when you make it easy. If you focus kind of on the 3 like phases of the business, we set appointments, we sit appointments, and we sell appointments. That's all we do. If you can focus on building credibility, building urgency, building need and value, you're going to get the check. Make the business simple. I like keeping my plan building pretty simple as well. Now, depending on their situation, whether they are a senior with debts or, younger with or without debts, either way, I like trying to keep this business simple. If your upline tells you to do something slightly different, that's perfectly fine. But again, I like keeping things relatively simple, where in most situations, just depending on affordability, I'm going to always present with 2 plans. I'm always going to go here to plan options. And the first thing I'm going to do is select plan options, labeling my first plan enhanced. And my second plan, I'm going to always name recommended. Again, the business is easy when you make it easy. So in a lot of situations, what I'm going to do is with my enhanced benefit, I'm going to set it up to what would be $10 a day per person. So if there's 1 person, it'll be $10. If there's 2 people, it'll be $20. If they have a lot of affordability or they have a lot of need, maybe they have a lot of debts that I want to try to protect, by all means, I can, play with this enhanced option and make it larger. The point being, though, is you're not actually selling your enhanced plan. It's just like when you go to buy a car, they're going to show you that fully loaded car to try and get it where you're going to want to at least get that mid-size model versus the base model. So when it comes to plan building, the first thing I do is keep it simple unless the situation calls for something different. I'm going to, set it up to $10 a day. I'm going to set it up for a fully loaded A71. When I go to allocate here, because this senior is a little younger, it's probably going to max out here. What I would do with the senior maybe is just switch it to the whole life preferred. So it's the 35,000 and then see if I can get some additional coverage here. It looks like I can. Perfect. This plan's done. I don't need to do anything else with it unless I want to. If the senior in this situation maybe had more debts or whatever, there's nothing to say that, I couldn't, put it to 60,000. That's fine. Whatever it be, it matters on their situation. I'm not actually selling this plan. So again, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. What I am going to go do is go to my recommended plan. And again, depending on their situation, I like making the business simple. And it's also a really good ALP size. If you go to about either $5 or $6 a day for the recommended plan, and that's per person. So again, if there's 2 people, I'm going to do $5 a day each, or $6 a day each, just kind of depending on it. I'm gonna set up a middle ground A71. And then again, I'm just gonna use the allocate feature here to see how much coverage they get. In this case, it's 17.4. I could leave it here, or again, I can play with it. There's nothing to say I can't make it 20,000 and call it this. At the end of the day, again, anything you do with confidence and intention is going to work out. Again, I like to keep my enhanced benefit about $10 a day, my recommended benefit about $5. It doesn't need to be exact though. Does that make sense, guys? I hope that's not confusing. Again, it's going to kind of depend on the situation. If this guy's planning an earth burial, by all means, I need to give him more coverage, right? Versus a cremation. If he has a lot of debts that I want to try to protect, you know, I got to maximize the situation based off the situation. Okay. Okay. So getting into actual closing here.
Quick question.
Yes, Shaker Deshpande.
Hey, Michael Cutter, the man. So Shayla, 4 categories of members. You have single, family, couple, retired, and there's going to be a different plan building approach depending upon the member. So there is a certain nuance to this, I understand. And
little
what's
bit.
your approach? What's your thought process about that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. What Shaker's bringing up is that there's different, what AO calls household types, being that there's single, single with kids, there's married, married with kids, there's retired, and there's like a retired widow or something like that. Anyway, there's about 6 different household types. Each situation is going to be a little bit different, right? Like those of you that got to see my ride along earlier today, he was a single guy with no dependents, and he was only like 37 years old. His needs are way different than a married couple or a widowed couple. Every situation is going to kind of, again, depend on the context of that situation. So that's where that needs analysis really comes into play. That's something Alessandro is going to touch on tomorrow. I don't want to steal any of his thunder, but you know, when it comes down to it, Shaker and everyone, as you kind of work through those 6 different household types, understand every household type has different needs, but there's kind of like 5 main pillars of need when it comes down to selling life insurance on a concept. Those 5 pillars, I would recommend writing these down as well, would be the first one is funeral and final expenses, because funerals apply to everybody. Everybody is going to die, whether you're single, married, kids, or not. You're all going to pass, unfortunately. So that's the first pillar of need. The second pillar of need is going to be based off of like an income replacement, because when we die, what dies with us? Our income. Now that income replacement, that's probably not important to the single guy with no kids, right? But do you think that income replacement, do you think that that's important for maybe the single parent with kids or the married
yeah.
couple with kids, right? That's going to be an important pillar of need. Now, when it comes to the income protection, again, that can vary, whether it's, you know, active working income, like their paycheck. For a veteran, something that's a big pillar of need is their disability check. How many of you have worked with a veteran that's been service connected, disabled, right? They get a monthly stipend from the VA that can vary anywhere from $1,000 all the way up to like $3,500 or more, that they get that every single month. Their family depends on that. When the veteran passes away, that disability check doesn't come into their family. It goes away. Just like if they're seniors and they're depending on Social Security, a fixed income, when they're on Social Security and one of them dies, the lower of those 2 Social Securities is gone the very next day. My father was collecting Social Security when he passed away. He passed away on the 3rd of the month. His Social Security was supposed to be deposited on the 5th of the month. We were hoping that his Social Security would come through and help pay for his cremation. It didn't happen because, again, the government's not going to do that. So again, all these things are really important to understand, that there's different pillars of need. The first being funerals, then the idea of income replacement. The biggest bill for most families is their mortgage or their rent. So that's the 3rd pillar of need and concept. And again, that mortgage protection probably isn't going to apply to the single guy, but it's probably going to apply to one of the families. You can see that, right, Shaker? The 4th thing, this can kind of apply to everybody, is debt protection, because many states are probate states, and different loans like student loans have predatory clauses where they can roll over to the next of kin, meaning that, you know, again, it can be a burden on your family. So those debts are going to need to be paid essentially. So debt protection is the 4th pillar. And then the 5th pillar is kind of the idea of like a legacy or inheritance. You know, any of those situations can apply based off of that household type. Does that make sense, Shaker?
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. And there's nuances in all of that, right? It's not just funeral and it's not just funerals, it's funeral and final expenses. There's so much that goes into a funeral. As you guys are kind of leveling up in this business, I would recommend doing a Google search. Find out, what's the average cost of a funeral? What are the things that go into planning a funeral? There's so much. There really, really is. So that veteran that might have told you, hey, I got everything covered. I have a plot and a headstone. That's all I need. There's so much more to it that, again, we can kind of dig in on, not only with funerals, but the idea of final expenses. The veterans have seen 6, even 7-figure estates dwindle down to nothing after a terminal battle of an illness, like cancer or otherwise. Again, savings isn't the best option for anybody. So, there's a lot that goes into that funeral and final expenses piece, just like with the income, the mortgage or rent, the different types of debt protection or legacy benefits. Great question, Shaker. And that's all going to be based off of the different 6 household types. That being said, to kind of keep it moving here as we're building plans, one thing that I want to touch on here is, again, regarding leveling up presentations. How many of you guys have seen me present before? Who's seen me run a ride along? All right, cool. As I get into the C1 portion of the script where we ask, have they ever had to plan or participate in planning a funeral? What are some of your guys' takeaways from having seen me present in the past?
Most definitely the biggest one is tone of voice. And so sorry, I'm driving, but
You're good.
tone of voice. Seriously, Mike, you know how to bring it down. And yeah, the tone of voice, seriously.
Right. I really key in on emotion, right? Because again, you guys have to understand life insurance. This is something that they will not taste, see, touch, use, feel. It's not tangible. So you have to utilize emotion to make it more real and more tangible. So as I get into my C1, when I'm going over the presentation, like before I go over the plans after I build it, I always adjust my tone of voice. I have a lot of emotional intelligence where, who wants to role play with me here?
Yeah, your aura changes, not just the
Drastically.
tone, but the face, your entire body chemistry.
Immediately. Who can I role play with?
I'll go.
I can
Right,
like, oh,
Let's go with John. So again, right? So as I go through it, let's just kind of role play. So the VSO has set up a couple of different benefit options for you, John. I'm going to send those back to the VSO and see what they send back. But John, let me ask you here. Have you ever had to personally plan or maybe just participate in planning a funeral?
Yeah, my mother's.
My condolences, John. I know that that's difficult, whether expected or unexpected. It doesn't make it much easier. How long ago did you pass?
It's been about 15 years. It was about a 8-year battle of breast cancer.
My heart with you, John. Like I said, whether expected or unexpected, it doesn't make it much easier. I went through it myself. I was 15 when I lost my mom to breast cancer as well, and about 18 when I lost my father in an accident. The long story short is, again, whether it's expected or unexpected, it doesn't make it much easier on the family. It's really not a question of if we're going to pass away. It's more so like you realize when we do, it's going to affect our family because someone in our family, they have to do like you and I did, step up and face a funeral director. And funeral directors these days, the nicest way to say it is they run a business. They're likely, they probably offered their condolences, but the next words out of their mouth were probably, mom's burial is going to be $10,000. Will that be cash or credit? Right? And, the funeral director is usually going to expect all or even a bulk of the money up front before they really start to do anything. I'm going to pause real quick for role play. But, what are some things that you guys kind of notice there as I go through it there with John? And that's how I would do it with an actual member as well.
A lot of empathy. I felt the empathy right now.
It's tangible, right? Because again, life insurance isn't tangible, but I want this feeling, this emotion to be tangible. I want them to be able to slice it with a knife if they can. You might not have as an effective need story as I do, but I'm sure all of you have different need stories, either from yourselves or again, within the career path where, you can borrow other people's stories, not lie to people by any stretch. But again, there's no reason that you guys can't say, Have you ever had to plan or participate in planning a funeral? Oh my gosh, whether it's expected or unexpected, I can only imagine how difficult it's been. You know, thankfully my parents are still around. I haven't had to do that myself, but you know, being in the business, I hear all sorts of horror stories. The worst is when I hear that a parent has to bury their child, or you know, those long battles of terminal illnesses that unfortunately we're all hearing about these days because no one just grabs a glass of milk and passes away. Oftentimes they have long drawn out battles of an illness, a cancer or disease that again puts a lot of stress and strain on the family. I didn't have to mention my personal story there at all, right? But I was still able to build a compelling need for it essentially, where I made it make sense. Okay. So again, to continue on, whether you have a need story or not, just utilizing the script of, you know, being emotionally intelligent, dropping your tone. Notice that I asked him questions about like having to deal with the death of his parent. How long ago was it? I want him to, again, start to think about that and start feeling those feelings so I can use that effectively to set myself up for the sale. So, you know, from there, again, all this ties into closing and leveling up your presentation, professionalism, credibility, emotion, and control. Going into it, John, you know, you realize firsthand that it's not a matter of if, but when something happens that, you know, we have to step up and face a funeral director immediately. And funeral directors these days, they're going to offer their condolences, but the next words out of their mouth are typically, you know, the cremation is going to be $3,000. Will that be cash or credit? Now, the funeral director is usually going to make the family take money out of savings, or worse yet, do something like a GoFundMe, because they're going to want all or even a bulk of the money up front before they start to do anything. Now, John, veterans like yourself would typically handle their arrangements one of three ways. The first being savings, which, you know, I'm sure you've worked hard to build, being a retired veteran, but, you know, that savings that you built up, I'm sure you'd be the first one to say that's not something that you want to bury out back and die on. It's something that you want to enjoy and live on, right? Sure,
Agreed.
some veterans might be in the situation where they can put $20,000 in a glass jar and say, hey, break this open when I die. But you and I both know, John, there's more than a handful of veterans that are just trying to make ends meet these days. Not only that, but the VSO has seen, you know, we never know how we're going to pass away. They've seen 6 and even 7-figure estates dwindle down to nothing after a battle of an illness or a cancer. So again, while savings might be an option for some, it's really not the best option for anybody. That's why a lot of veterans have looked to like prepaid routes. Veterans are quickly calling those hostage situations though, John, where you're here in Illinois, but I think you said your kids were there in Michigan. Imagine if you prepay a funeral here in Illinois, but then for whatever reason, you decide to move closer to the kids. Now the kids have a large out-of-pocket expense when something happens to essentially get you back to Illinois or throw everything that you put into it out the window. Worse yet, you know, the VSO has seen a lot of situations where those local funeral parlors unfortunately go out of business. If that's the case, John, they don't have to honor the same contracts that were previously laid out. So those prepaid options that were popular with our grandparents, you know, you're seeing them less and less popular today for a variety of reasons. Third and final route is life insurance. Now, main thing there, John, is not all benefits are created equal. Again, the VSOs have seen that oftentimes benefits are either temporary, where they expire when you need them, or there's stipulations put on them where you almost have to wear a purple shirt on a Tuesday and get struck by lightning for it to pay out. Now, the VSOs didn't like that very much, John. So what they set up for you is called the Freedom of Choice Certificate. Now, this is set up to be accepted at any funeral home or crematorium all across the country, where with this certificate, John, this is the only thing your family's ever responsible for. They never have to bring in their checkbook. They never have to put anything down on a credit card. They just present this certificate to the funeral director. And from that point on, everything's meant to be taken care of. Now, John, typical life insurance, big bold print in the middle, it'll say how much a benefit's for. So if mom walks into the funeral parlor with a $30,000 benefit, she's probably walking out with a $30,000 service. You know, the funeral director might call it a deal and give it $29,999. But the point being is, with this certificate, the funeral director never knows how much is in your coverage. That makes it where the family knows they can take it anywhere. The funeral director knows that they're going to get paid and paid out immediately. But most importantly, they never know how much is in your benefit. That way, when the funeral director calls the 1-800 number, we verify it's active. But again, we never say how much. That way, the funeral director gets their fair share, but every penny over that is meant to immediately come back to your family as soon as that 24 to 48 hours. Now, John, doesn't it give you peace of mind knowing that your family has the freedom of choice certificate in place?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll see if you qualify for it, but there's a couple of different plan options for you. The first being the recommended option. What this does for you, John, is set aside $20,000 of a guaranteed whole life coverage. Every penny of that is, again, going to pay out no matter how you pass away. Whether it's natural causes, sickness, or accident, no matter what, that $20,000 is going to come back to your family immediately. Now, when your funeral cost is less than that death benefit, the difference is going to come back to you. Okay? Now, John, we never know how we're going to pass away. So what the VSO has done here is set up a few additional riders where if you ever pass away in like an accident, an additional 30,000 would pay out. If it's ever something really serious like a bad car wreck, that's an additional 60, so a total of 80,000. And then finally a common carrier. That's if you're ever like a ticketed passenger on like a plane, train, bus, ferry, and that goes down something like really catastrophic. That would be a total of 170,000 that would pay out to your family. So again, just making sure whether the death is expected or unexpected, on the worst day of the family's life, they have a little bit of something to take care of it at that time. Does that make sense, John? Yeah. I'm not going to go over the A71 with you guys. It's pretty straightforward. But again, notice how I've tried to like highlight a lot of this stuff to build emotion and credibility and utilize tie downs to be very assertive and assumptive throughout all of this. Okay. Does that make sense so far, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Any questions about what we've talked about so far? Okay. I got two more pieces of sauce to give you guys that are going to really, again, help level up. So, as I kind of go through this page at the end of it, it's already in the script, I think, as well. But I'm going to show you guys how I do it, where after I go through all of this, the A71, I'm going to say, now, John, the VSO, realizes, and I'm sure you do, that we're all going to pass away one day. It's something that we don't have a lot of choice or control over. So in most situations, John, it comes down to the veteran like yourself taking care of something like this now, or realize that burden is likely to fall on Samantha in the future. Now, John, as veterans like yourself, we're trying to set stuff up like this themselves. They would do things like visit with a financial advisor. Now, you mentioned earlier you're making about $5,800. Financial advisors were telling our veterans to try and save or set aside about 30% of their income away on things like insurances, funerals, and medical debts. Now, in your case, John, that means that you're setting aside almost $1,800. If you're doing that, pat on the back. I know it's not something I'd want to do. Probably not something I could do. I got mouths to feed and a family to go through. And also, I want to enjoy my money. Now, the main reason why the VSO set this stuff up for you, John, is we base everything off income and affordability. They won't let you go above 15% of your income, even if you wanted to. Now, with that being said, John, the VSO has set up two different plan options, what's known as a recommended or an enhanced. The recommended plan, that's the one I went over with you, where it's your $300 a day hospital benefit and the $20,000 guaranteed coverage. This is where most veterans are going to start out, right around $5 a day or about $173 a month. Now, some veterans get really, really excited about this stuff, John, and ask if they can try to qualify for more. That'd be like our enhanced option. It's a lot more coverage where you actually get a $60,000 freedom of choice certificate and $500 a day for your hospital coverage. Now, this is a really good benefit, but it is a lot harder to qualify for. You're also setting aside kind of on the higher end where the VSO would have you. It's about $12 a day, or what would be about $379 a month. Something that's probably affordable, but not very comfortable. So again, John, what most veterans are going to do is set up a recommended option, knowing they can always add on to it later on down the road. Which one works better for you and your family, John?
I think I'll go with the 173.
Okay, perfect. Now, usually that's what happens with me, where I don't get a lot of rebuttals, but at the end of the sit, whether they say yes or whether they say no, I always go through these same three questions. I have like an 85 to 90% retention typically. Writing business is cool. Dropping business on the board is really cool, but getting a renewal check is way, way, way cooler. Knowing that this is something that John is going to keep for the rest of his life is something that's really important. Because again, writing business is cool. Maintaining business is what all the really cool kids do. So I always ask these same three questions, whether they say yes or whether they say no. So let's role play that John said yes. All right, John. So again, this benefit isn't for me, it's for you. So let's set everything aside real quick and they just have me ask you a few quick questions. Now, the VSO has set these benefits up to be permanent, meaning they never expire, and guaranteed, meaning they pay out no matter how you pass away. So you understand that one day, this is something you're going to be guaranteed to use, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, John, would you say your family's better having this benefit in place, or are they better without it?
With it, definitely.
Okay, John, the last question is the most important because they always want this to be a benefit to you. The 173, that's something that's financially affordable for you, right? Month in, month out. It's not taking food off the table for you, right?
No, I think I can make it work.
You think or you can? Because like I said, sir, this is something that you'll be paying on for the rest of your life. And it's something that, again, will make sure on the worst day of Samantha's life when she has to take care of your arrangements, things are made a little bit easier. So again, I always want this to be a benefit to you, John. That 173, you're sure it's affordable for you?
Yeah, but can you get it down to like 150?
Hey, I wish it was a garage sale, John. Unfortunately, I can't haggle these prices. Now, I am glad that you let me know that you obviously see value in the benefit. You understand it's something you're going to use and something you said yourself that your family's better with. But understand, like I mentioned earlier, what a lot of veterans are going to do with these benefits is they're going to qualify for something, knowing that later on down the road, they can always add on additional coverages. So for you, John, what I think is going to work best is this essential plan. It's a little less coverage, but it's a heck of a lot more affordable. Where instead of setting aside the 173, you're still getting $15,000 of coverage along with a $200 a day hospital benefit. And instead of the 173, it's only 129. I'm sure that's a lot more affordable for you, right?
Oh yeah, big time. That's up my alley.
Okay, John, because like I said, the benefit's not for me, it's for you. Now, what I need you to do to get this stuff set up, go ahead and grab your driver's license, any and all medications that you're prescribed to take. And this doesn't come out of your like disability income or social security. They want it under your control, not some fat cat in Washington. So it comes directly out of your like checking or savings account. Go ahead and grab your driver's license, a check blank, and the meds, and I'm going to go ahead and get your your application filled out, okay?
All right, be back in a minute.
So again, that's something I would do with an actual veteran, where if he tells me, if he even seems wishy-washy about that 173, I'm cool dropping the coverage a little bit to make sure it's a very solid deal to, again, make sure I'm getting those renewals in the long run. That's what's important here. Because again, he can always work his way up later on down the road. I'd rather make sure he has something set up that's rock solid. Yes, Shaker.
So two rebuttals people at times stumble across. One is I need to think about it. I need to talk to somebody or whatever. So the whole
Yeah.
think about it. And number two is I don't really need life insurance. And that question should never be asked, right? Because if that question is asked, it means that
You
the-
lost, you kind of missed building need or value earlier in the presentation, if that's the case. But yeah, regarding the first one, if I need to think about it. So, usually that's going to be before you down close. So let's kind of take away this down close option real quick. And, let's just kind of role play it together here, Shaker. I need to click off of it for me to uncheck it. Hang on one sec. Okay. So Shaker, it doesn't matter to me which option you want to go with, just whichever one makes the most sense for you.
Yeah, so I'm making a financial decision that's going to be there for the rest of my life. And so I just need to give it some thought, make sure that I think it through before I decide what I want to do.
I totally understand where you're coming from, Shaker. I've done this a long time. A lot of veterans have felt that exact same way. Now, what they found, however, is that, again, making the decision to protect your family is really never the wrong decision. So let's set the money aside real quick and just kind of go through a little bit of the thinking here right now. Again, the veterans have set these benefits up to be permanent. That means they never expire. They're also guaranteed, meaning that they pay out no matter how you pass away. So Shaker, whether it's $1 or $1 million of coverage, you understand that one day this is something you're going to use and come back to the family, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, Shaker, would you say that your wife and your stepdaughters, are they better having something like this in place to cover your services, or are they better without it?
definitely better off with it.
Okay, so Shaker, you understand this is something you're going to use. You said yourself it's something that your family is better with. The final piece of the puzzle here, Shaker, is making sure it's something that's affordable. Because again, they always want to make sure that this is a benefit. So the 173.42, is that something that's financially affordable, or is that taking food off the table?
No, it is affordable. I just want to see if I can give myself some time before I decide.
Of course. And, like I said earlier, Shaker, I wish I can give you all the time in the world. Unfortunately, again, there's about 1,500 veterans that pass away every single day. We never know when our time is going to come. So, Shaker, I can give you all the time in the world to think about this, but realize, unfortunately, I also can't give you all the time in the world to think about this because there's a lot of other veterans that are waiting on these benefits during this servicing period. So, what we can always do, Shaker, is qualify for a piece of the coverage, knowing that once you're qualified and you get everything sent out, you can always add on additional coverages later. But again, I only want to set that up for you, Shaker, if you understand that this is something your family's better with and it's something that's financially affordable. So here's what we can do, Shaker, to again make sure that you're set up with a piece of coverage, knowing that your family's better off and protected. And then, once you get everything mailed out, you can always decide to move forward from there, how you want to proceed. So Shaker, as an essential plan for you, it's a little less coverage, but it's a lot more affordable. It's a $10,000 death benefit, more than enough to cover the cremation like you had asked for earlier. The nice thing is you're only setting aside about $80 a month, $88 a month. That's something that'll always be there for you. I'm sure this is a lot more comfortable for you to get started, right?
Right.
Okay. So I was maybe a little jazzier than I needed to be, but long story short is, I kind of tackled the I want to think about it by doing the thinking for them essentially, because if they understand this is something they're going to use, if they understand this is something their family's better with, and they understand this is something that's affordable, what is there more to think about? And if there is more to think about, hey, I wish I can give you all the time in the world. Unfortunately, I'm not the big guy upstairs. I got a boss and a servicing period here. I got to get this taken care of in your window. Otherwise, we never know if you're going to get an opportunity again. So let's qualify for a piece of coverage. No, you can always add on more later. Sometimes what I do, I'm not going to word vomit all this at them, but sometimes you guys will hear me mentioning like the Costco clothes where I like to say, Shaker, it's a lot like going to Costco. If you have your Costco membership, you can come and go. But if you don't have your Costco membership, they're not going to let you in the door. So that's what this essential plan does. It locks in your age and health, knowing that, hey, you at least have a piece of coverage with your veteran benefits that you can always add on to it later on. Does that make sense, Shaker? How we can kind of
Yeah. So the key takeaway is the 3 questions with the time urgency of the number of veterans that are passing away.
Yep. Because even earlier in your sit, this is something that's newer for you, Shaker. In the B1, we did add kind of a tie down on the. Now, basically, what that's all saying, you kind of heard me allude to it, that they just ask that you give me a decision today with a simple yes or no if you did want to qualify for your benefit. That's out of courtesy for the 50,000 veterans that are patiently waiting for these benefits. So again, I would have already solidified that, hey, we need to make a decision today, whether it's a yes or no. I don't care. I'm going to get paid regardless. But realize us going back and forth takes this time away from another veteran, essentially. And then one other tactic, Shaker, that you guys might have heard me go through it with him. I try to utilize a closing tactic called feel, felt, found, saying, hey, Shaker, I understand that you feel that way. I've done this a long time. A lot of other veterans have felt that way as well. But what they found is that taking advantage of this benefit now is something that they're never going to regret in the future or whatever it is. But that feel, felt, found is a really good closing tactic that you guys can use in a variety of situations. We got a couple of questions, so let's open it up for those. Miss Angela, we'll start with you.
What would be like your lowest freedom choice amount you would come down to like get someone to set in?
It depends. Me personally, I'm going to be honest, I'm a really good salesperson, but I'm also a really bad salesperson in that I'm never going to give someone something that they don't need, don't want, or can't afford. I always want these benefits to, again, be a benefit to them. So again, if Shaker tells me that he wants an earth burial, I would not feel comfortable giving him a $2,000 death benefit because, again, $2,000 is not enough to cover an earth burial. If he told me he wanted a cremation, by all means, I would probably go that low. but it really depends on the situation. And you're going to see as well here, Angela, unfortunately, in some situations where, you know, we're working with like a 78-year-old, when we go to show them coverages, this stuff gets a little expensive where, you know, 4,000 of coverage, that's not too bad. $87 a month, actually. But, you know, it kind of depends on the situation, Angela, is what I'd say. I'm always
Okay.
going to try to go off of like need-based selling, because when they go to like cancel a policy or cancel a bill, they're going to be way quicker to cancel a bill than they will be to like cancel their funeral being paid for, or they'll be way quicker to cancel a $50,000 life insurance policy than they would to cancel an income replacement policy that keeps their $5,000 income coming into their family for 10 months. When you can have like a concept or a need behind your sale, it makes it a lot more solid. So again, it all matters on the situation, Angela, and their affordability. At the end of the day, a piece of pie is always better than no pie at all. So again, if I can at least lock them in with something affordable, knowing that their family's better off with it and it's something their family is going to use and it's affordable, perfect. We made all 3 check marks. Let's move forward. But again, if it's something their family's not better off with, or it is taking food off the table, I'm not going to write the policy, because again, it doesn't benefit me. If they keep the policy for a month and then have to cancel it, I don't want to fight that chargeback. That doesn't benefit me and it doesn't benefit them. So that's what I'd say there, Miss Angela.
Yeah, I've made
Okay.
that mistake twice, and I'll never make that again, where I knowingly had a member sign up to a policy where they were not fully on board, and I had this feeling that they were probably going to cancel, and I should have never
Yeah,
signed them up because they did cancel. So it's
exactly.
the conviction is everything, because as Michael said, you know, getting someone on board is one thing, but keeping them is what this is about, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because again, like it says, we sell whole life, meaning it needs to be there for their whole life. If I wanted to sell a temporary product, I'd sell them term life. But I'm not trying to sell them a temporary product. I want this to be a permanent, guaranteed solution, because at the end of the day, they're going to die. I want to have something in place that's going to help them out when that happens. Because again, I've been on the other side of the coin where we didn't have anything. So while money doesn't bring anybody back, it can certainly make things a little bit easier for the surviving family. John, what's your question, sir?
What's the proper rebuttal for someone that is asking, what is the servicing period? Because we mentioned servicing period a lot. And I was just wanting to be prepared if I was pressed. Well, how long is the servicing period? How much time do I have? What's the
Well,
proper
you never
rebuttal?
know how long your servicing period is, because again, you got to realize you're only going to have that lead in your account for as long as that lead is in your account. That lead can get pulled at any time. So technically, their servicing period could end at any time. What I usually do in those situations is pay periods go Wednesday to Wednesday. So like I had to do today, where the guy needed to think about it. You know, I just mentioned, hey, your service period actually wraps up here on the 10th. So here's what I can do. I can give you a call back on like Monday or Tuesday, give you the weekend to think about it. But again, whether you decide to move forward with the benefit or not, the benefit's for you, not for me. I'll give you a call, and if you want to get it taken care of, great. If not, we'll part on good terms. So that's one tactic, is essentially utilizing the next Wednesday, or again, just, you know, hey, John, I'm not exactly sure when your service period does wrap up, but realize the VSO, they got me working with about 200 veterans here right now. I can't go back and forth with you once we get this meeting set up. It's something that you either have to decide to do or not do, and that's fine. But out of courtesy for the other veterans that are patiently waiting on me, I can only sit down with you once during your servicing period. That's another way that you can kind of tackle it. And again, just utilizing, hey, a piece of coverage is better than no coverage. Let's get your foot in the door, knowing it's something that you're guaranteed to use and it's affordable, and you can always add on more later. That's kind of how I'd pitch that. Does that make sense, John?
It does. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, y'all? Okay. So I hope was that helpful? I hope it was. I'm sure it was. So we talked about a lot. Again, the main takeaways, guys. There's 3 things that can level up your presentation. Utilize them effectively. Those were professionalism and credibility, emotion, and then tie downs and control. The tie downs that you do are all very important. Realize what we say and how we say it will dictate how someone responds. We are farmers in a lot of different ways. We reap what we sow. That's why I'm so intentional is as I go through my sit, I sow seeds of success. I plant the seed of success so I can reap the harvest and the reward later. I effectively use tie downs to make sure that they know I'm going to be talking about life insurance. I effectively sow the seed that, hey, there's a lot of needs that you might have or concerns, and this benefit is of value. And again, the last things that I really want to touch on are that individual basis tie down, using the letter to get them excited about life insurance, that financial advisor close. I'm big on visual tools. So again, utilizing the calculator, actually showing them this is very, very effective. I love doing that. And then again, those 3 questions, whether they say yes or whether they say no, are very effective because it'll either take your yes into a really solid yes or take a no into an opportunity, essentially. The only other thing that I'd kind of share is, again, become a market master as best as you can. Utilize the resources that are in front of you, whether it's utilizing like benefits.va.gov to find out about the different market or the different like life insurances and things that are available to veterans, or like how someone can qualify for the survivor pension. Earlier today, I sat down with an active duty veteran, and he was giving me a little wishy-washy where he was saying, I have my SGLI active. I don't need this stuff right now. I'm in service for 9 more years. So those of you that were in the ride along, you saw me share this, where again, this is an official thing from benefits.va.gov that shows exactly how that VGLI works, where I showed him, yeah, you're only 36 right now. If you wanted to convert all of your SGLI to a VGLI benefit, it's going to be about $52 a month for you right now. The problem is every 4 years, John, that keeps going up in cost. Where sure, when you're in your 60s, that same benefit, it's about $268. Lord willing, you live that long, but say you do, keep that benefit into your 70s, we're talking about $900 a month, if not, $1,800 a month to keep that benefit. And if you ever cancel it or stop paying, you don't get anything for it. Now, you setting up the benefit with me today keeps it where, yeah, you're paying, $150 a month, but it's never going to change. Not only that, but you also get cash value. Something that the ladies that were in my ride along earlier didn't know about that I want to share with you guys. As you guys click these buttons on the left, when you click present plan as an option, if you click it again, it gives you the option to like click protections and riders. Or as you go here to benefit summary and click it again, protections and riders, this is an opportunity for you guys to introduce the concept of cash value, where it's nothing to make you rich, John, but it's nice knowing the veterans have set up like a small savings for you, where on a rainy day, there's money you have access to here. Your bank, my bank, the President's Bank, we get 0.01 to 0.03% interest. Here with the veteran program, you get it at 4.5% just for having your benefits. So that by the time you're 65, there's $40,000 of cash value built up in there that you can do whatever you like with. If you want to go to Vegas, by all means, I'll tell you a few good places to go. You can ride off into the sunset. If you don't pay it back, it just gets deducted from the face value. If you pay it back, there's no penalty. And I can kind of explain cash value or terminal illness rider or whatever it be from there. But again, guys, I hope that was helpful. I appreciate you